Welcome to Voices of Care, real stories to inspire, uplift, and unite caregivers, with Maggie Linton and Powell. Enjoy the conversation.
Well, I am thrilled to have Zarinah Traci Silas on with us right now. And Zarinah, you have had a busy career, and we hear so much about your career through Homeland Security. Let's begin there because that's a really important topic that's going on right now and getting even crazier almost every day.
Yes, thank you so much, Maggie. I really appreciate you having me. I actually started with the Homeland Security Office of Policy. And there it's where all of the international policy occurs. I am now an international trade lawyer that has 21 years of experience, 13 of which was with Homeland as my host, but ultimately I serviced 9 different departments. So, commerce, transportation, SBA, defense, the intelligence community, treasury, and interior. And so my time there was really fulfilling and really understanding the landscape of everything that goes on in this country. So, in the national security space, the largest thing that I did was counterterrorism. So, I hold a background in international law, in real estate law, and then certainly in general practice. But beyond that, I have legal certifications in use of force and counterterrorism. I also have a legal certification in European Union law and finished the Harvard Kennedy School. So God has been very good to me in giving me all of the things we need to provide safety to our community as a whole.
Well, it sounds like you are a child of the world because it's beyond, when you started naming all the different things. In fact, you may be more qualified to head of department than some of the department heads we have right now. Just
Thank you.
saying,
Yes.
because you do have qualifications, and that's so important. And it sounds like you've really enjoyed this too, because I can see a sense of excitement even still to this point.
Yes, yes. I have always been someone of service. My father is retired from the Air Force as a drill sergeant, and my mother retired out of the State Department. And so the commitment to service started very early and is very natural for me. I think that the biggest thing that I bring is my exuberance, my ability to digest a large amount of information and create it in a way that we're creating policies that make sense, that touch the population it's supposed to touch, and then that are effective, right? So that's probably the excitement you see is when we get into these large name roles, it's really about bringing your skills everywhere you go. And so wherever I am, I'm still the same high energy. I'm still skipping down the halls. I think I roller skated into work, right? So I was never quite normal, but yet, with God's grace, I landed the senior executive service, the highest level of government before I turned 40, which is less than 0.03% of the population in history.
Well, when you started talking about how long you've been in service, I go, gosh, you don't even look like you're in your 20s. So, hey, good black don't crack, right? 100%. But, part of the reason why you're here, other than to talk about some of the many things that you've done, is to talk about the service that you have been as far as giving care. And
Yeah.
you've shown that you care for so many, but on a personal level.
Yes, yes. So what's key to me is family. Everything comes down to family, right? At the end of the day, we are bringing our whole selves into a position where most of our hours are spent outside of the home, but forgetting how much needs to be poured back into the home, right? So I'm an only child. They got it right the first time, Maggie. So I am always connected to everything that my parents need, everything that my children need before I head off to work, right? So a great deal of travel I did in the caregiving space didn't affect how they were taken care of back home, helped me focus on what the country needed. So in 2023, that's when my father fell ill. I then went into Family Medical Leave Act. I think I've taken maybe 2 weeks ever vacation probably in my whole career. And my father was never sick. My parents were doing very well. And in 2023, he just fell ill, wouldn't get out of the bed, constantly, calling. I flew back from an engagement and, opened the door, felt his forehead and felt, I'm trying to figure out what's going on here. And ultimately, he was incoherent. I called the ambulance. The ambulance came. They took him to the hospital, and he was in the beginning stages of sepsis. So a
Oh,
healthy healthy person, retired drill sergeant. So you know how that is, right?
yes,
Uh,
yes, yes.
and my mother, wonderful person in and of herself. And so my dad is, I'm fine, leave me, that type of thing. But the daughters, we're very
Hmm.
intrusive, right? I'm very, very intrusive. And because of that, I was glad that I caught it when I did. And he then began the care that went on in the hospital. So I was actually setting up my office in the hospital. I was there every minute, every day. They gave me an office there. They were like, "Are you a hospitalist?" Because so many of the doctors just saw me so often, and
Right.
stepping out into the hall and leading meetings. And so the balance, when we really dive into talking about caregiving, no one at work knew, right? Because when you're in a position of power,
You
anything
can't let everything.
sounds like a weakness. I mean, I remember
No.
each
Mm-mm.
kid, in the hospital, I'm, pushed out a baby and I'm on my laptop, right? So it's that level of making sure that everything is taken care of, and that pressure of across the board oversharing in the personal space too much professionally would impair the ability for you to upward climb, and all of these tricks that your brain plays on you never matters until you actually have to deal with a caregiving situation. So that happened to me in 2023.
And the thing is, you jumped in kind of like with both feet, but you also knew what questions to ask. You were
Mhm.
not satisfied until you got the right answer for it.
So that's the other part, right? So, no, I did not know what to ask. But what happens is when you are adamant about getting the proper care for your loved ones, you will research. So I was a community activist for a long time. I was trained in community preparedness, so triage stations after storms, after life events, after any type of earthquake or the like, to stabilize a community, right? All hands on deck type of thing. So elementary style nursing. Well, you elevate your expertise when it's a family member that you love so much, right? So all of that knowledge comes flooding back to you, and you start researching what makes sense. What are these terms? I really, really encourage people to not shy away from asking, what does that mean? Tell me in layman's terms. What are these medical terms? What are you writing on the paper? And so that open line of communication did get me very quickly involved in what I think that some people refer to it as a partnership, right? So what really happened was a partnership was formed between myself, the doctors, the medical assistants, even the housekeepers, all of the people that were caring for my dad and also my dad, right? And we all partnered in the proper care. So generated almost exclusively online and on prior knowledge.
And when you said that, you have to have someone there, so often people go into something and don't have that person that's there with them to ask the questions. And they're sitting there waiting for the doctor to tell them things, and the doctors just don't always aren't as giving and aren't as not sure that you'll understand what they're talking about, so they don't even bother at all. But you have to keep probing.
That's right. And it's a wonderful sign that you are communicating and opening the lines of communication for the doctor back to you when a doctor sits down. So if you see a doctor sit down, you're like, oh, thank goodness. It's something about that level of care, right? That you took enough time to not flutter in, fill me with 5,000 medical terms and flutter out. You sat down, you let me digest it, you let me figure out what was going on, and then we could converse about what the course of action was next. So, that's the biggest refreshment for me that I want to share with many people that are caregiving is make the doctor sit down. Make the doctor
Mhm.
sit down, then you know they're listening.
Now, with your mom, was she kind of waiting for you to come in and help along with this? Did she feel like she was less than to receive all the information just on her own?
Yes, thank you for asking that, Maggie. So the interesting thing that I found, which you said it right, jumped in 2 feet, 2 feet into the deep end. I'm a good swimmer, but it was a lot of pedaling there. Um, Not everyone handles difficult situations very well, and you don't know that until you're in the situation, right? And so
Very true.
the what I experienced with my mother, I love her so much, such a soft touch and the like. She couldn't deal with it, right? So she almost completely checked out of the entire process. Would not go to the hospital as often. Really didn't want to talk about it. Almost like the elephant in the room, and was very difficult in communicating past health history, like the health history information to the doctors that I caught that early enough to say, let me step in. And I then became the primary care agent.
That's what's so important, understanding what her role was, but also what your role is. And way too many people are kind of standing around waiting for somebody else because I became the caretaker for my parents. And my sister was like your mom, she says, "Oh, okay, I'm done."
Yep.
I live in New York. I don't have to even be bothered with it. So, it does take the right person and you being willing to step up because there was nobody else other than you.
That's right. That's right. And I will add to that since I have a background, well, I can't attribute it to the background and intelligence, but it does aid in it, is the privacy protection. My father's a very private person, and I am as well. And so you do find that even when our family members or loved ones may be going through something, they don't want you to contact anyone, right? And so it's the I don't want to hear their pity or their well wishes or to keep
Um,
calling me and and so not everyone handles the care and support that other people want to give very well,
right,
right?
right.
And so those baskets and all those things, my dad is like, don't send me a fruit basket, don't send me flowers, don't, and so it's like pushing it out to the hall. Here, nursing staff, do you want this? Because he just didn't want to see it. In his
Hmm.
mind, it was, oh, you're preparing to die. And it was
Hmm.
not the receipt of what he wanted, in his room and in his recovery. And when he woke up every day, having to fight dialysis and trying to fight the antibiotics and those things that were getting him slowly back to building to see in the morning. He just didn't want to see
Right,
it.
right. And just keeping moving forward, keeping his mind moving forward too,
Yes,
was also very important, wasn't it?
yes. Yes, very important. I think that a large part of health, the improvement of health, the restoration of healthy cells, the generation of healthy cells rests in the mind. Right.
Hmm.
So if you think you are getting better, if you think you are living a healthy lifestyle, it pulls you in a direction that is more receptive to the level of care that the medical professionals are providing. And that's what I found for my dad for sure.
Right. What do you, I know you want people to know about this part, but also I want to go back to talk about what you're doing right now and how you're helping continuing to be that voice of reason and moving forward for so many others.
Yes, thank you so much. So, fast forwarding to my position. And so I feel like I would be remiss without mentioning how everything, kind of occurred for me in the national security space. So I was in a very public position, very well known on Capitol Hill, across federal government as leading the academic safety portfolio at the time when my father fell ill. So school safety shootings, campus threats for colleges and universities, military institutions, the immigration crisis and visas for professionals coming in and teaching us new skills here. So all of that was under my single portfolio. Secret Service reported to me, faith-based institutions and the FBI reported to me, and it was a concerted effort. So a large role, okay, was not very well supported when I said I need to step away. And I took my Family Medical Leave Act, so FMLA, which is a max of 12 weeks for me. I took that first while he was in the hospital. Well, it would be nice if that was the hospital stay. The hospital stay far exceeded 12 weeks, okay? And so I was expected to go back to the stage the 12th week and the first day. Not happening, Maggie. Not happening, right? So I said, well, I'm going to need to extend this. And at this point, I mean, I think I had like 600 hours of leave or something, but could not use it, right? Because I've maxed my Family Medical Leave Act. And at that point, I said, well, I resign. A career executive, senior executive service, mic drop moment, walked off of an engagement and said, "No, this is it for me."
Yeah,
Killed the engagement.
family is more
Was
important.
amazing. This is it, right? And no one believed me. I mean, to the point that Maggie, I processed my own out processing paperwork. I processed
They're
all
really leaving.
my out processing paperwork. Let that sink in. My own paperwork. And I left, my office and left the badge and my phone and my parking pass and I drove off and I did not return. And so that was December 19th of 2023 and I have not returned, right? And it has been a complete blessing of taking care of my dad 6 months into having left my position. He's up and walking, he's driving, he's playing with my children. He has an exuberant personality. Like so it's all about so much of feeling cared for, being involved in what I said was that medical partnership, right? And then really feeding the mind with positivity to get back on his feet. So I am still in the caregiving position. I now run my own company, international trade, for specifically for survivors, women and domestic violence victims, of providing them with services throughout the community. But in that's caregiving, right? So continued caregiving, it's impacted me so much. One, I'll say, I don't even think I realized I was a caregiver, right? We don't refer to parents like mothers as caregivers. Well, that's of course, right?
Of
And
course they are.
you transfer those skills not as easily, but
Hmm.
certainly efficiently to a
Right.
parent, to a sibling, to a neighbor, to a pet, to friends, whomever, right? And those skills are transferable, they're fulfilling, and there's so much that is needed in that space. So I really enjoyed everything that I've accomplished, and I've left a good stamp on in our government, our federal government for the country. But my role really is in seeing the health of my dad, who will be 90 in February. So I
Oh,
have
we're
to add
blessed
that.
to have him that
Oh,
long, really and
so
truly.
happy.
Yeah, yeah. That's tell people about the name of your company, how people can learn more about it, because there are so many people in need. When the federal government shut down, I people would say, "So how are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I got a roof over my head, food in my belly, and nobody's coming to take anything away." But so many people can't say that.
Yes, yes.
So talk about your organization that's there to help others.
Yes, thank you so much. So my company is called Ballard and Silas LLC, Ballard and Silas LLC, and it is me as the founder, as CEO, And I am a global trade executive who really focuses on providing an ethical and safe travel environment for women and children. That travel environment can include human trafficking victims, domestic violence victims, reentry, a multitude. And most of what I work with are women and children around the world, providing them safety tips on how to travel safely, how to escape situations, to get a new start on their life, how to create entrepreneurship opportunities. I have a workshop that I run that every woman has to go through this workshop with themselves and their kids. And it tells them about how to deal with finances, how to deal with social safety, how to deal with actual safety of defending themselves. And then I dive into my undergraduate degree was in psychology, and I dealt a lot in the behavioral sciences. And so, what does that do for your mind, especially in the use of force and social engineering? And so, I deal with emotional safety. I'm found at ballardsilas.com. And I only have LinkedIn. And so I'm still kind of in the privacy space there because
Yeah.
personal privacy is everything. I mean, we're dealing with displacement, we're dealing with migrants, we're dealing with aggressive offenders that are
Hmm.
searching for their women and children, right? And so
Hmm.
safety is paramount, and I hold myself to a high standard, and I hold my clients to a high standard. So I've been very fortunate to work with affordable housing options, to work with local government to provide entry-level jobs. I've worked with school systems. I've taught some homeschooling. So really the whole 360, and I've been doing that for over 20 years and just started that company last year, which was much needed. A friend of mine said, "Hey, you're helping so many people for anyone to not know about this on a larger scale." And so
Exactly.
I put it out there last year, but I've been doing this work privately for over 20 years.
And so you've been doing, your caregiving goes much beyond just your dad. It's a care for so many people and helping make them right. When you mentioned financial, I'm a very big proponent of getting your financial house straight because it makes such a difference in your life.
That's your
And
free.
way too many people, I used to, do a daily talk show and would have what I call Wealth Wednesdays or Financial Fridays and have guests on and people would say, well, I don't know anything about finances. And I'm going, how could you have lived your whole life? And you say you don't. There are books, there are audio books, there are people, there are seminars, there's so many things for people to do. And they think it's for other people.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that they have to realize that you can change your life by taking charge of just, if nothing else, your finances.
Yes, yes. And that's huge, Maggie. That's
Hmm.
huge. And I think that it's a huge fallacy that it's not taught in school the way it should be. And I think that's where the problem starts. And
Hmm.
they no longer teach money and money counting in school. So those things where you're understanding a concept of math, but not how to apply it
Hmm.
is a major error. And I think that's the product of how we get there. But finances are huge. That's your pathway to freedom is the understanding that you can take all that you know and package it into something that will get you to a space that is more healthy, a space that is ethical, and a space that is safe for that mother and children in my case.
That's true. And there are way too many mothers and children without somebody else there to help them. You may have some family support, but way too often you turn it and you look, and here's a woman who's supporting the whole family. You
That's
know?
right. And that's really why I'm so passionate about the work of women
Mhm.
survivors and women victims and women reentrants, right? It's because of that, because we feel like we have nowhere to go, and you're stuck. And when you're stuck, most victims go back to their aggressor because they're too scared to figure out how to get to that next step. So the multitude of services that are available
Mhm.
in local government and church groups and nonprofits in federal government and all types of advocacy services are great if the people who could benefit from it understands and can go into programs that give them that freedom. I have
Yeah,
not found it in all of my walk around the world of government funding or government support for that, which is why I provide it. And so giving back is critical. But at the end of the day, I'm a girl from Philly. I live in Washington, D.C., but I'm a girl from Philly. And we believe in community, right? Brotherly love.
Right.
And brotherly love is also sisterly love. And so, I remember working rape crisis centers in high school and in college. So that's what I mean. This is not new for me,
Hmm.
but it is a need that continues to be a need. And I just want to see us win.
Exactly. And just lift everybody up. It's
Yes.
no sense in tearing it down. We can be lifting up. And right now, it's a little bit of a struggle, but got to keep thinking it's going to be positive. Give us your contact information again,
Yes.
and
Yes. Please.
well, people know to get in touch with you.
Oh, yes, please do. Please do. My company again is Ballard and Silas, Ballard, and Silas, Silas, LLC. And you can find me at ballardsilas.com. So I would love to have a consultation or any way that you can help women survivors and victims do a tabletop exercise, create security plans, whatever we can do as a community to make it a safer place for our next generation.
And no matter where people are listening to it, you probably got contacts there, right?
Globally, globally. Absolutely. And they'll see through my website that the work that I've done is vast and large. In fact, I started the first forced labor division in the entire federal government as a collaboration in 2016. And so that was presidentially led and created a whole opportunity for us to look a little bit more into human trafficking conditions on a worldwide scale through global supply chain. So much needed, all of it.
Right. And people don't realize just how much human trafficking is really going on. You must pay attention to other people because you never know who's in need. And sometimes they're looking at you saying, I need, and you've got to be aware of that need.
That's right. That's right. And I think what to that point, one thing I do want to mention is most of the individuals that I come in contact with, that whether they are backed in stacked in education, that's what I like to say, backed and stacked in education with all of the degrees and the letters and all those things, it's that's happening over there. It's always it's happening over there concept, right? But it's not, right? So it's everywhere. And in fact, in Washington, D.C., we've had tons of busts of, beauty parlors, of restaurants, of, nail shops, of barber shops, of daycare, centers. There's literally no platform where you cannot find some sort of exploitation happening. And how do we
Mm,
end it? It's education and removing those possibilities that people think they will not be prosecuted for it. So
right. Well, and even more so, lifting people up so that they never become victims in the first place.
that's the goal. That's the
Yeah.
goal. But if they
Yeah.
are, don't think that your shot is done, right? And so there's more to push on and continue on. And I love that now we are in the age of transparency and the
Mm,
age of information. And post-COVID, there's so much online that is just proactively being applied and provided to further support women, especially. It's okay if you're overloaded, right? Let's figure out how to get you out of that. It's okay
right.
if you are, down to your last dollar. Let me show you what resources or how I lift myself up out of the trenches, right? It's
Hmm.
okay
Hmm.
for you to say, I'm sad as a caregiver. There is love for you. Try this support group or connect to this prayer line or connect to a group or do something that makes you happy, right? And so all of these things are much more readily available than in, my mother's lifetime or my grandmother's lifetime, or right where things were sit down and just deal with it and deal with it privately and hold it close to you and just suffer through it. Now
Right.
we actually have really great ability to heal and go on and live a very fruitful life.
I'm going to leave it at that.
My company is called Ballard and Silas LLC, Ballard and Silas LLC, and it is me as the founder as CEO, and I am a global trade executive who really focuses on providing an ethical and safe travel environment for women and children. That travel environment can include human trafficking victims, domestic violence victims, reentry, a multitude. And most of what I work with are women and children. Around the world, providing them safety tips on how to travel safely, how to escape situations, to get a new start on their life, how to create entrepreneurship opportunities. I have a workshop that I run that every woman has to go through this workshop with themselves and their kids. And it tells them about how to deal with finances, how to deal with social safety, how to deal with actual safety of defending themselves. And then I dive into my undergraduate degree was in psychology, and I dealt a lot in the behavioral sciences. And so, what does that do for your mind, especially in the use of force and social engineering? And so, I deal with emotional safety. I'm found at ballardsilas.com, and I only have LinkedIn.